Hello everyone. So what I'm going to be doing right now is I'm going to be giving just a general summary of the history of the kings of Britain by Geoffrey of Monmouth, mainly because I realize it's going to take forever and be a lot of videos for me to do each of these videos in like small snippets of reading. So what I'm going to say is please read all this yourself. It's very good. But I'm just going to be giving videos of the summaries. So here is a summary of the history of the kings of Britain by Geoffrey of Monmouth. There we go. So we start in book 9, which is where Arthur comes in. So we have Uther Pendragon has died. And with the death of Uther, many of the barons and lords in Britain are worried because the Saxons have invaded and now hold everything north of the Humber River up into the islands of Caithness, which is essentially all of Scotland and all of Northumbria. So Arthur's crowned king because of this, because not only is he Uther Pendragon's son, but even though he is 15 years old, he has established himself as a noble lord and a great warrior. So after Arthur becomes king, he decides that it's time to take the battle to the Saxons, and they go to York. The people in this are the Scots, the Picts, and the Saxons, and Arthur and his knights. So what happens is they go up and surround York, hold it, and essentially during this battle Childred flees. They don't hold York, they siege it. Then we go to the Battle of Lincoln. In this one, Arthur has a victory over the Saxons, with many of them drowning and in the rivers at Lincoln, and the rest fleeing. Then we have the Battle of the Chaldean Wood, which is a 3-day siege that Arthur sieges the Saxons inside a tree wall that they build around the Saxons. So they kind of hold the Saxons up on this hill. Arthur orders his men to cut down all the trees in the area. They do, and then they build a wall around the Saxons and siege that. So essentially, Arthur tells them that after 3 days, they can leave as long as they give him their weapons and hostages. So the Saxons give up hostages, give up all their weapons, hop on their boats, head back to Germany. But on their way, they're like, well, that's actually kind of stupid. We can still get some money from these guys, so let's all head over to Bath. So the Saxons return and decide to siege Bath, and when they do so, Arthur is very upset, obviously, that these guys have reneged on their deal, and he then kills all of the hostages that were given to him, and he heads on over to Bath. So now we have the Battle of Bath, and essentially what we have here is what we will find more and more common in later stories, which is an arming scene where the hero of the story dons their armor, and it goes through elaborate detail of each piece of their armor. So what we have here is Arthur has a golden dragon helm, which for me kind of reminds me of Tolkien's story of Arthurian-o-rama and the dread helm that he has. Anyway, his shield is named Prydwen, and on the inside of it is painted the Virgin Mary, which is something that we will see in Sir Gawain and the Green Knight as well. Sir Gawain's shield has on the inside of it painted an image of the Virgin Mary, so that the Virgin Mary is always in his mind in battle. Then we have his sword, which is Caliburn. It is notably not Excalibur at this point, but I believe, obviously with the proximity of their names, this is just a difference in pronunciation that linguistically will change to Excalibur later on in the stories. But at this point, with Geoffrey of Monmouth writing, it was called Caliburn. And his spear is named Ron. it one of these things is not like the other. Caliburn and Pridwin are very clearly they're very clearly Celtic names. Ron, I'm not sure of the origin of the name Ron, but it sure doesn't sound Celtic. I'm not sure if his spear is named Ronald. Maybe if it was a pike, it would be named Ronald, and now that it's a spear, it's named Ron. That is a terrible joke that I will not apologize for. So now after, we have the Battle of Bath, and it's essentially the Itchy and Scratchy show where it's they fight. So Arthur is victorious at the Battle of Bath, but Cheldric gets away. He's then chased down to Thanet by one of Arthur's knights, and there he is killed. Then we have the Battle of Loch Lomond, where we are finally going to get rid of the remaining Saxons, and we are going to fight the Picts and the Scots. So we have the Eagles, the little story about the Eagles living there for years, essentially giving spoilers of this battle going to happen, but somehow the Picts and the Scots, I guess, either got really used to hearing this story and don't care about it anymore, or they just didn't listen for some reason. Either way, the Eagles have been saying that this battle's going to happen. So then we have the Irish come to try to help the Saxons, Picts, and Scots because they are all being sieged on little islands, and Arthur kind of has a blockade set up on the lake to stop them from fleeing. We have this 15-day blockade. So when the Irish come, they're described as all being naked, and, well, the British do, or the Britons do, what the British will later do for years on years and for time immemorial, and that is subjugate the Irish and completely destroy them. So there's that. So after the Irish are completely killed off, their king is dead and beheaded, the Picts and the Scots were like, well, shit, I guess we will swear fealty to you, King Arthur. So it is now at this time that Arthur becomes not just Rex Anglorum, but I guess Rex Britannium, the king of all Britain. And with that, he returns to York. So he kind of holds court in York for a little while. He sends people out to go subjugate the rest of the island of Ireland. So he now becomes the king of Ireland. Then he goes and takes over Iceland and becomes the king of Iceland. And so then we have Gotland and Orkney are like, we don't want to get destroyed like those guys. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to send our kings over there, and they are going to kind of schmooze up to King Arthur. So we'll be part of him. We'll swear fealty. That way we don't have to fight and have everyone kill us. So then we have a 12-year break where nothing happens aside from Arthur gathering his court, essentially all the most noble and best knights of the world, not just of Britain and Scotland, or well, I guess Scotland is part of Britain, not just of the Isles, but of the entire world. We have knights from France coming to swear fealty to him, and here we have the most, I guess, notable picture or image where we have, let's see if I can make this bigger for you all. All right, so here is Arthur at his round table. It is notable that there is no round table at this point in Arthuriana. We don't get that until I don't think we get that until Chrétien de Troyes. So there's that. But there is no round table right now. But here's a picture of the round table, and we have all the very famous knights of King Arthur's court here. We have Lionel, Sir Gawain, Sir Bort, Lancelot, Sir Galahad here in the Siege Perilous. We have Percival, King Arthur himself. Then we have some of the kings who swore fealty and are a part of the Round Table. King Rions, King Carados, King Bagdemagus, I think is my favorite name of all of Arthur's Knights of the Round Table. Bagdemagus. Tristane. These are all names that we will know more of later as we move through Arthuriana. Put this all back here. Alright, so now Arthur has all these great knights around him, so he decides, let's go take Norway. And Norway falls. Then he's like, okay, cool. It's important to note that the times of King Arthur is obviously pre-Anglo-Saxon England, so before England becomes England. This is around the Roman Empire taking over England. This is supposed to be like early to mid 5th century, so the Romans are just now pulling out of Britannia. So Arthur decides, hey, let's go take Gaul now. And the Emperor of Rome is Frollo. No, the Emperor is not Frollo. Frollo is the ruler of Gaul. So Arthur goes and takes over Gaul from Frollo, and many of Frollo's nobles then become loyal to Arthur. They swear fealty to him. Frollo loses all control of Gaul, and now Rome is very mad because they just lost a very large portion of their empire to Arthur. So now we go to book 10, and Arthur decides to continue his push toward Rome itself, and he leaves his son Mordred in charge. Or, sorry, actually, I'm not reading ahead. Mordred is not Arthur's son in this version. His mother is the same in this version, but Mordred is not said to be Arthur's son / nephew here. On Arthur's way to Rome, this is a notable difference from what we'll see later in another story, but Arthur is already in Gaul when he has this dream of a dragon and a bear fighting, and he sees himself as the dragon because he is the son of the Pendragon, and the bear is Rome. Or no, the bear is a giant. For some reason, he knows that the bear is a giant, and so when he wakes up the next day, he hears a story of how one of his knight's nieces got taken away by a giant and is up on a mountain in the middle of the water. So Arthur goes with a few knights and they fight and kill this dragon. And in memoriam of this niece who was killed, they dedicate a abbey to this niece, and this abbey is now on Mount Saint Michael, or as we all know it, Mont Saint Michel in France, which I find amazing. When I went to France this last summer and walking around there and knowing that in the 12th century this abbey had been there for so long at that point that there was already a mythological founding for this abbey. It was incredible. Anyway, we move on to the Battle of Saucy, where Gawain leads a charge against the Romans and opens up a clear path for the Britons to fight Emperor Lucius and Lucius is killed in the battle, but we don't know who by, or at least Geoffrey of Monmouth says that we don't know who killed Lucius. So Arthur then, now the emperor's dead, wants to claim the crown of Rome, so he can be Emperor de Mundi, or whatever it would be in Latin for Emperor of the world or King of the world. But he receives a message from home that Mordred had married Guinevere and taken the throne. Now, even though this isn't Lancelot doing so, because Lancelot does not exist yet in Arthuriana, and it's Mordred who is cucking Arthur. In the most literal of senses, Mordred is cucking Arthur. And it's interesting that difference. Well, not the difference, but it's interesting that clear this far ahead in Arthuriana, the end game is Arthur is going to be cucked out of his wife, Guinevere. It's just notably this time it's not his best friend and best knight, it is his... I guess Mordred might just be his best friend and best knight here. So, yeah, but Mordred's going to be swapped out for Lancelot later, even though at the end of Le Morte d'Arthur with Thomas Mallory, Mordred is also again going to marry Guinevere, but this time against her will, and he's going to take Arthur's throne. So in Book 11, obviously Arthur is going to return to Britain. Mordred asks the Saxons he invites the Saxons over to come help him in his fight against Arthur, which interestingly may be related to the story of Hengist and Horsa. Obviously this story is written later than that, but that could be where Geoffrey got inspiration for this idea of the invitation of the Saxons into England. In the battle, Sir Gawain dies, Arthur's nephew, Mordred's brother, and we have Mordred at this point in the battle looks like he's losing. He's losing castle after castle. This isn't a battle, this is a war. He's losing battle after battle after battle. So at this point, Guinevere's like, well, this doesn't look like it's going well for me. My new husband is losing to my ex-husband, so I'm gonna go join a nunnery. Which is exactly what she does, I believe, in every other large version of that overviews all of Arthur's life, is she's going to deuce out and go to a nunnery. So then we have the Battle of Camlan, which is the notably always the last battle of Arthur's life on this world. And in this battle, Mordred and Cheldric the Saxon die, and Arthur is mortally wounded. And Arthur is then taken away to the Isle of Avalon, where he is healed of his wounds and may return again someday, making him the once and future king. In his place, though, Constantine, son of Cador, Duke of Cornwall, is crowned king in 542 AD. And that is the end of Arthur's life on this world, and the end of Geoffrey of Monmouth's history of the kings of Britain. Because after this point, with Constantine, the Saxons come in, and Britannia becomes England, the land of the Angles. So I hope you all enjoyed this. I will be doing another one soon. I'm finishing up reading through my Chrétien. I will be making a summary and doing a similar video to this. on that. So I hope you all enjoy this. Thank you. Be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this so you can keep in touch and see when the next video comes out. Bye!